Hello, hello. All right, I am starting on just a random stream. Try to hope to find people that want to actually just have nice, calm, civilized conversations. Just left Crazy stream after being freaking silenced again because Veckel and other people wanted to bully me, call me a freaking homosexual if I didn't dare join their thing. And when I do, within 2 minutes, is telling me to leave. It's frustrating. So the only way to have to actually have a friendly conversation with fellow Christians and even unbelievers that want to have a civilized conversation is to start my own dang channel. So here I am. I don't know who's going to show up. Mrs. Joel went ahead and she's laying down because she's frustrated. She's having problems. It's just it should not be this difficult to have Christian, much less just regular people, civilized people, conversations and fellowship in social media. I get more grief and just hatred from self-proclaimed Christians than I do from atheists. It's ridiculous. So I don't know. Let me test my friggin' my voice channel real quick, the quality. I got my mic's normally set up for work, so hold on, I'm gonna test. Okay, I sound okay. Alrighty then. So yeah, the stream channel here for those that might show up and want to talk. Otherwise, so I was trying to figure out how to help Bob or Gotha talk about the idea whether or not God chooses not to know things. And so it sounds like he does want to believe that. I was trying to figure out if we could come to a good consensus together on that or not. The idea that God appears to limit himself and the things that Bob was saying from our perspective, but God still knows. God knew that he was going to break his own heart creating us. For example, like I tried to tell those guys, Genesis 6:6. God regretted making mankind because of our sin, because of how evil we were to each other. It broke his heart. And that breaks my heart to even think about it, that we break God's heart like that. He did everything he possibly could to love us, to get us to want to choose and love him, short of forcing us. God's the perfect gentleman. And all we do is just smack him in the face, literally. And he tolerates it. He loves us. We're his children. I've had my children that have rebelled against me on occasion. I've had to wrestle one of my kids to the ground because he wanted to fight. He wanted to be wrong. He wanted to throw a chair, people. I had to teach him otherwise, but I still loved him. In fact, that's I started screaming at him, holding him to the ground, telling him that I love him while he's crying. Then he stopped. He never did that again. And I think that's how God is towards us. He wants to wrestle us to the ground. He will let all kinds of hell come into our lives just so that we stop making mistakes. But he'll protect us, and he'll wrestle us with himself just to help protect us, so we don't have to walk into worse situations without him. That's how I am with my children. That's how God is with us. So it seems like God changes his mind, but he doesn't. He just knows. So anyhow, yeah, if anyone wants to have fun talking about other things, by all means. I would like to have a conversation with Bob or whoever else about the mind of God. Can we know the mind of God? And if God's taught me anything, especially through science, is that that's all he wants is for us to know him. It's the whole purpose he created us for, was to know him, to love him. You can't love somebody you don't know. You can't. And I wish that was all there was that needed to be said. These guys, they go on for days, uselessly arguing about things they do not understand because they don't want to know Christ. They want to know their doctrine. their beliefs. So anyhow, oh goodness, thank you, Lord, and I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity for us to be able to meet online, talk to people all over the world. This amazing technology you taught us. This is what the Lord says. He who made the earth, the Lord who formed it and established it. The Lord is his name. Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Amen. Technology is a gift of God. It is probably the second greatest gift, short of life, of God's gifts. In fact, let me just quote that directly. Mr. Freeman Dyson, the only man in the world that Princeton University said could fill Albert Einstein's bunny slippers, said, technology is a gift of God. After the gift of life, it is perhaps the greatest of God's gifts. It is the mother of civilizations, of arts, and of sciences. Amen. Why is it so difficult to find people in social media that want to talk about science and God? Why is it difficult? I understand most professionals, they just don't have the time and they don't feel like wasting their time talking with the typical trope, I guess, the trolls on social media. I certainly don't. Maybe that's the point. I need to learn my lesson. I keep being stupid. I used to get my friends upset with me back when before Mrs. Joel and I got together. We used to talk politics a lot. We had a Yahoo channel, Politics Lobby, it was called, Politics Lobby 4. We had probably 100+ people, friends from all over the planet, all over the country, all like-minded. Turned out most of us were INTJs, by the way, which was really remarkable because Mrs. Joel had everybody take the MBTI test. That's what she does. But I was the guy that was always wanting to talk to the anti-Americans, the terrorists that come in, And I wanted to reason with them. I wanted to say, hey, no, why do you believe that? What about this? What about that? And the rest of the whole room would be like, room ignore, press a 1 when you're done. Still laugh about it every once in a while these days. Because we still probably 2 or 3 dozen of those guys, we're still talking with them on Facebook and different places. It's really cool. Lifelong friends because of the stinking internet. But they'd get mad at me because I'd be the one and be like, no, we have to talk to them. And like, Joel, we're going to ignore you too, stuff. Because, if they ignored them, that's how the old chat room stuff used to work. You ignore somebody, you can't hear them on the mic. But if somebody else is still talking to them that you don't have ignored, you can still hear that other person talking to them. So it would frustrate them. They didn't want to hear me talking with them, basically. So I guess that's the reason why I still waste time on the internet. Hoping and praying for, you don't have to be a scientist, but just want to talk about it. Why is this so hard? Praise was trying to tell me he's changed his mind on things because of something to do with you have to think about the way the Trinity is in a certain way, a metaphysical way, and that's fine and all, but you still have to break down the science. Hold on, Mrs. Joel's calling me. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna see what she needs, guys. Give me about 2 minutes. All right. Kitten was bothering her. Okay, so latest news. So serial number 15 landed successfully. Was it last Thursday, I guess now? There's new talk about siphoning carbon dioxide out of Venus. It's kind of a controversial subject, so I'll leave that for somebody that wants to go into it more deeply. I've been spending most of my time in Facebook, really, trying to get evolutionists to want to talk about the language of God, the code, God's code for life, the universal information, the three-dimensional, bidirectional, packetized codec, compression, decompression, transfer protocol technology embedded in all life, complete with artificial intelligence subroutines. All kinds of transposons and retrotransposons, pre-engineered chromosome translocation mechanisms designed specifically as an archive data retrieval, archive and retrieval system, like a back end, front end. God's code literally moves information around like a back end server does. Perfectly choreographed. And if something breaks, you get diseased or you die. It's the exact opposite of evolution. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the information science that's embedded in all life, universally. Every insect, every mammal, every fish, every microbe uses the same exact codec kernel. All sequences and all life use the same exact 3 start, stop, codon command keys. All of it. And the evolutionists like to cry, oh, there's deviations in RNA. That's not the source code. Those are the Ethernet packets that come off of the source code. They don't want to talk about the details. RNA is not a packet. It has a header and a footer. Biologists are just noobs, so they call it a promoter and terminator tag instead. It's a header footer, just like an Ethernet packet. The header tells it where to go, how to get there, what to do when it arrives, and the footer, the quote-unquote termination tag, tells the artificial nanotechnology machine ribosome when to stop, when it's done translating and building the building blocks of life, the amino acid protein group chains. It's a computer. Life is computerized. It's extremely precise. And if something mutates, quote unquote, it breaks, stops working, becomes diseased. If too many mutations happen, there's a pre-designed mechanism called the immune system that tries to hunt and seek and destroy that diseased cell. And if that fails, then the rest of the body just dies. The opposite of evolution. No evidence whatsoever of speciation. All kinds of evidence that disproves, falsifies speciation. But anyway, nobody wants to talk about it. So anyhow, all right. I was hoping somebody might show up. Do you want to talk about something specifically? I'm hoping Bob does. Bob, if you do get a chance to get wind of this, man, it'd be nice to reason together without the distractions. You wanted to try to encourage to talk about it there on Praise's channel still. Well, it got distracted to the point you needed to silence me because of Veckel being a jerk. So yeah, it's just backwards. It's just wrong. It's just not. That is not how you have a civilized, mutual conversation. Freaking people. So anyhow, what else we got? Got a million and one things going through my mind, everybody, but I don't know what people in general want to hear, I guess. That's why I was hoping someone would join. Work's been slowing down, thankfully, so started my second to last class again for big data analytics. Need to put some more time into that. My daughter had a miracle. Her and her husband, she's pregnant. She's due this June-ish in the Philippines, and they're struggling financially because they're still doing nationwide lockdowns over there. Nobody can work or anything. And so she was praying. She'd been praying, nonstop because she's just a wonderful child of God. And made a post about what they're hoping to do here in the future, summer. And a couple saw her post and said that they were praying that the Lord would send them somebody that they could help financially and just spiritually. And they found her post just at the right time, so they're going to try to help her more. Wonderful little miracle. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened unto you. Not always on our time, but he does answer. I got to look that up again now. Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Amen. God's begging us to ask him to know everything. And that's the point. That's the message I wanted to get to Bob and everybody. If we don't know something, it's our fault. God's. God said, if you're going to ask for wisdom, don't ask haphazardly. Book of James. He won't tell us. You have to be sincere. God's not going to waste his time if you're not serious. And that's the problem with the world. People aren't serious. They say, if God's real, he'll prove it to me. While they're looking through binoculars with the lens caps on. People just don't genuinely care. People want to create their own little fantasies. Even Christians. Christians want to create their own little make-believe doctrines. But what God really says, Satan in the garden told Eve, did God really mean that? This is what God really said. Well, I'm sorry, Christians. A lot of Christians do that too. Jesus said, if you don't know him, and they did twist this verse too, Matthew 7. If you don't know him, quote unquote, know, K-N-O-W, if you don't know Jesus, he will reject you. He's flat said it. Get away from me, you who break God's laws. Talking about those who don't want salvation. They just want to pretend to be Christian. They want to speak in tongues and they want to be prophets and cast out demons and heal the sick and raise the dead and all that stuff. But he'll say, depart from me. I never knew you. It's that harsh. Many shall come on that day and say, Lord, Lord. Reminds me of my favorite mentor, Keith Green. Becca was kind of a jerk about that too, me mentioning Keith Green's song. It's not scripture. No kidding, Kojak. God still speaks to us, those people. Everything Veckel tries to correct us with is not from scripture. It's from him. So, I need to stop. Keith Green, I don't know what you think a Christian is. I've known so many people that think a Christian means going to church a lot. You may have heard this before, but going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than going to McDonald's makes you a hamburger. Saying a prayer doesn't make you a Christian. People in every religion pray. Even praying to Jesus does not make you a Christian. He says, many shall come in that day and say, Lord, Lord. He says, depart from me. I never knew you. Having the gifts of the Spirit or looking like you've got them doesn't mean that you're a Christian. Jesus said, many shall come in that day and say, Lord, did we not cast out demons and heal the sick and raise the dead and all kinds of stuff? And he'll say the same thing. Depart from me. I never knew you. You know what a Christian is? I've got a really good definition. Someone who's bananas for Jesus. Someone who loves the Lord thy God with all his heart, all his soul, and all his mind, and all his strength. And don't forget the second part. And he loves everybody else as much as he loves himself. Amen. Bananas for Jesus. It'd be cool to shake his hand someday soon. And I think that's what's driven me. That's what's guided me through my 2 decades plus now being a Christian on this annoying mudball of the planet. All the different doctrines, all the different philosophies, all the different drive-by fallacious words for this, that, or the other belief. It's all meaningless. Just know the Lord. Check with the Lord. If you don't know something, ask. And if you still don't know, that means keep asking until he answers you. God delights. God asks us to ask. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. I haven't spoken to my friend Joel, the other Joel, the lump of coal, we called him. Almost a year. Dang. He moved to Indiana, the punk. We talked almost every day back at SpaceX, man. He's a quote unquote Greek Orthodox Christian. Him and his wife, his family. Beautiful kids. He moved to Indiana about three years ago. Gosh, 2 years. Oh my gosh, time flies. And he's trying to get me to go up there with him. Poor guy. And we thought about it. Kelly didn't want to leave Texas though, so the decisions. But I wonder he'd probably be willing to come chat with me here. I know my friend Joseph said he would. Joseph's a fun guy. He's not a professional scientist necessarily, but he sure knows his stuff. He's been a professional missionary. He's trying to be a pastor. He's trying to start his own church now. He's been all over the planet. He has risked his life just trying to pass out Bibles in China. He's been shot at. He almost did die in India. That's where his family's. He's a first generation from India, American. You wouldn't be able to tell by listening to him, though. I mean, he's got the dark skin and everything. You know, he's a skinny guy, but he sounds totally American. I love it. I love Joseph. Good guy. I don't get to talk to him often enough either. We were supposed to hook up at a restaurant local nearby because his oldest daughter wanted to talk more about science and physics, and she's getting old enough now. She wants to learn more. And that is just stinking awesome. Yep. He was praising his wife on Mother's Day the other day about how just super smart she is. She's an engineer. She comes from a family of engineers. Something about her grandfather has earned the patent for the washing machine. He became stinking rich, but she's got his engineering talent. So he's talking about how all the things that she fixes, and you know they set up their own little personalized solar charger set for their home. You know, they're hooking up all the power supplies, and he'll ask me questions every once in a while, and then usually him and his wife will figure it out before I get a chance to answer him. So I really love that. You know, seek knowledge, but she was super engineer type, whatever. And I don't know. I was telling him the other day I regret because we never got a chance to get him down to the McGregor area because I was able to get everybody personalized free tours on the SpaceX R&D facility, and would have loved to seen him and his wife and certainly his kids' reactions. I used to love taking all my kids' friends there to see their reactions. And I remember one of my daughters was like, "Dad, I didn't realize space stuff was so dirty." I was like, "Yeah, it's soot, it's kerosene, it's petroleum products. Plus, it's all the R&D stuff. It's literally in the dirt. It's gravel. It's not. We don't have NASA's public space. Their budget to make everything nice and pretty. So Oh gosh, that was a fun job. I can see Joseph's wife probably crawling all inside out of the octaweb and just sticking her head down the engines and just asking a million questions. It'd been fun. Kelly liked to ask a bunch of questions too. That was my. I told someone recently that was my fondest memory of all my wonderful memories there at SpaceX was Mrs. Joel being able to put her precious little hands on all three boosters for the Falcon Heavy test flight, the first maiden flight system. We were qualifying the three boosters, and we'd go through the rocket development hangar. And we'd see one of the boosters that get finished before it gets wrapped up and sent off to Florida, and I'd show her around. You know, and at first she was reluctant. You know, it's like, you sure I can touch that? Yeah, go ahead. Do it all the time. It's kind of half expecting one of my friends to do a little test burst on the N2 reactor control system, because they'll do that in the hangar once in a while. These big, you see it on the videos. You know, the big plumes on the sides. You know that help control the rocket. And they'll do it inside the hangar. Big old loud giant. So, and it's just nitrogen, so it doesn't. It can't. I mean, it might. You know, it won't hurt you. You know, blow your hair around. But kitty crack corn. She just jumped all the way into my room and pounced and ran back. All right. So yeah, all right. We thought to email Bob and set up a more formal time to try to talk about that issue. Does God limit himself on purpose, or does it just seem like he does from our perspective? I think, and that's what I was going to try to relay for everybody else, is that God makes it seem like he limits himself. You know, when God came in the flesh, and that's a big contention amongst Trinitarians, whatever, is Jesus God? They say Jesus is God, but he's not the Father. He said the Father's God, and Jesus is God, the Holy Spirit's God, but they're different gods. But they're not different gods. And so that, you know, that's what turns people off. And they're trying to argue with me that doesn't matter if it turns people off. That, you know, the whole Calvinist crap, that if you're going to be saved, then God just forces you to be saved. He makes you be saved. He makes you get it, quote unquote. And that didn't happen to me. I dared God to prove himself to me. I was an atheist. I was all in all these advanced science classes and chemistry classes, all this stuff at school. I was bored. The typical rebellious, bored teenager. All my teachers were trying to get me on all these advanced classes. Joel, you're so smart. If you just applied yourself, you're just bored. And I didn't care. They couldn't. That was my problem. I learned stuff on my own. I don't need teachers. I mean, you know, I need somebody to teach me things that I don't know about, but I have the ability to learn things faster than you can in school, is the point. But, and I was doing all this research on, you know, quote unquote, on just different religions, you know. And so I said, let's research this Christianity thing. I literally dared God. I said, God, if you exist, you're going to have to prove it to me. You know, that's what we do as scientists. The very next, you know, some people they'll do that. I've heard people, I've been asking God to prove himself to me for 15 years. What's wrong? God doesn't exist. I was like, well, I don't know. I can't answer that. God answered me the very next day. Boom. Broke my skull open. Cracked my head like an egg. Wide open. No, I could not deny God anymore. And then my science career took off. So yeah, I asked God. I dared God to prove him to me. I made the mistake, I said, of daring God. The guy's like, okay, well, boom. And I think that's what it is. God's a perfect gentleman. He doesn't force salvation on people. That's not love. That's the error. The fallacy of Calvinists. God is love. And not say, if God if you have to wait for God to open your mind or whatever, for God to save you, to help you become saved, or to know how to be, whatever they say for salvation, then why doesn't he do it for everybody? And they won't answer that, or they can't, or they have some sort of really bad answer for that. It's our choice, not God's. God's choice is that all believe that he died for all sin, so that none should perish. God's choice is that everybody would believe. But God lets us disbelieve. Even when we pretend to be Christians, sometimes God lets us disbelieve. That's the one thing I don't like about God. He gives us free choice. I don't want free choice. I want to automatically love and serve God. I understand why he wants me to choose. I'm thankful God taught me those lessons. When I was a young Christian, God first knocked my head off my shoulders like a golf club. I used to tell him, God, take away my free will. I don't want to sin. I don't want to forget. I don't want to be fleshly. I don't want God take away my free will. He would at first, it seems, I would pray this often. I'd be in the middle of a just an open field somewhere, middle of nowhere, just begging God, please take this away from me, this ability to sin. And at first, he was kind of quiet about it, kind of like pat me on the head, That's cute, Joel. But after a while, he got mad. I could tell. When you get close to God, you feel God's emotions. He was getting mad at me, like, Joel, I'm not going to take your free will from you. So him and I fought. I've wrestled with God over this, a few other issues, but certainly that one. Still, sometimes today, pray, God, please take away my sinful nature, take away my ability to choose. All I want to do is please God. That's it. And I'm glad he's so easy to please. God doesn't have good taste, as Rich Mullins put it. I love it. But still, it's not God's choice that any should perish. It's only our choice that we don't care, that we don't listen, that we want to make up some silly doctrine to bully other Christians with. That's the bottom line. We'll all be wrong. We'll all be in error at different points and phases in our walk with Christ. The only thing that matters is that we walk with Christ. Stumble along the ways. The people that get mad at you and call you a homosexual if you don't get on the mic with them, Jekyll, that's not walking with Christ. Christ is not like that. That's why I get upset. I do not tolerate bullies. Bob is a very gracious, patient, kind person. Him and I have the same programming degree. Turns out, be cool to talk with him about that one day. Him and I both did the game and simulation bachelor's at DeVry. Be fun to talk about sometime, just on that topic alone. But he can tolerate bullies. He's patient with them. He tries to reconcile, and that's great. I don't have that nature. I have to raffle stomp, as people put it, bullies. I'm a soldier. Bob too. Bob was a soldier. He was a Marine. So it's a very fascinating dynamic. Thinking about it, I've been a lot of Marines in my career, and there people are different of all walks. There's no such thing as a typical jarhead. I mean, Marine. It's just like there's not a typical Army dog either. Chair Force. There's typical Chair Force. I mean, Air Force people, but that's another story. All you Navy squids out there, you know what I'm talking about. And let's not get started about the Puddle Pirates now. Those guys are just awesome. God chose all of us to be saved. He paid our price, whether we asked him to or not. It's your choice if you want to reject God or not. It's not God's choice. You choose. If you want to know God, you will. If you don't want to know God, you won't. It's as simple as that. I am convinced that God does everything in his omniscient power possible to help us to better understand and to know him intimately, short of forcing us to. It's the only thing God limits us. Well, see, we could even argue that. On the last day, there's no more choice. God will force himself on us eventually. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. Every nation will know that Jesus is Lord. And he gave us all, he gives us chances, thousands of years. There's no excuse. That's why I love Mr. Einstein so much. People just don't understand. Got that paralleled here in my little debate notes now. I'll share. It is enough for me. Nope, hold on. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God, Beckel. Romans 1:20. It is enough for me to contemplate the mystery of conscious life, perpetuating itself through all eternity, eternal life, to reflect upon the marvelous structure of the universe, which we can only dimly perceive. Again, that's Einstein quoting the Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians 13:12. And to try humbly to comprehend even an infinitesimal part of the intelligence manifested in nature. Romans 1:20. God has manifested himself, his intelligence, his invisible properties, quote unquote, in nature. I loved how Einstein described God as an invisible musician, keeping the universe in fine tune. Einstein was an intelligent design scientist, everybody. It's another big shocker I like to throw at the atheists out there that try to claim that he agreed with them. Einstein believed in evolution. No, he didn't. He said there is no evolution or destiny. It's just being. We belong to God. That's how we scientists describe it. So yeah, Einstein, he loved playing his violin. As he said that God was like a musician, keeping the universe in tune in the distance. And so every time he played his violin, he felt like he was playing along with God. That's how he communed with God. That's how he praised God, was through his violin music. I love that. I've felt that, I've had that experience, just playing guitar and just certainly praising worship services all over the world. But my communion with God, it's just nonstop. It's everything I do. I think people think I'm weird, more than usual, more than all my fellow Christians that hate me on these YouTube channels, because I don't, I don't like to bow my head for prayer. For example, I try to, and I've reasoned this with other pastors and stuff that have asked me why, and it's because Jesus said to never cease praying, always be praying. Everything we do, every glance we make, looking at that light switch over there, I'm praying, I'm thinking about God. And if I'm not, I want to, I need to. Never cease praying. So I don't start praying. I don't bow my head and pray. I'm praying before I bow my head, whether I bow my head or not. And then Gideon, I'm always reminded, God always reminds me of Gideon. Choose your soldiers based on those who bring the water to their head, that do not bow their head. Keep your head on a swivel, as we used to say in the military. Always stay alert. Everywhere I go, I see you, as this song goes. Whether my eyes are open staring at a wall, or whether I've closed my eyes to go to sleep, I see God. I'm going to know God just as he knows me. Only purpose in this life is to get to know God and to help others get to know Him. That's it. The rest are details. There's no reason talking about doctrine. There's no reason talking about rocket science. There's no reason talking about anti-fungal cream for your toes or jam or whatever. The only good reason to do anything is to get to know God and to help others come home for Him. It's for Him. I talk to others about God for God. So God can have more joy. Get them to have. That is my only real purpose left in life anymore. It's for God to use me to help reach other people for Him. That's it. So I don't want free will. I want to be that vessel, as the apostles talk about. I want to be a cup. The only person that wants me to be Joel, I think, is God. I mean, my wife probably does too, because she's sweet and deludedly crazy enough to love me, but maybe it's God too. Maybe God's delusional to want to love me too, to love you. All our crap that we put Him through. God said He created us knowing that it would break His heart. Genesis 6:6. He did it anyways. We have our own children knowing that something really bad could happen. I've lost a child. It nearly ruined me. I don't talk about it often enough. I guess it's happened long. It's been almost 11 years now. I guess it's getting easier to talk about, but I wanted to walk headlong into highway traffic that day. I was on the road. I had to pull over when they told me over the phone. I just wanted to walk straight into traffic. So much hurt. That is the worst possible thing I think anybody can experience on earth. I'd rather go to hell than lose my child. As bold and as terrible of a statement that is. Maybe it's because I'm naive. I don't know what hell really is like yet. I mean, I have an idea. I've talked to people that said that they've been there and back. But I do know what losing a child's like. Unfortunately. We're a person I meet that's lost a child. And that's why we go through crap. That's why we go through pain. So when we see another precious, precious child of God that's going through hardships, we can relate. We can understand. We can say, I've been there. I know what you're going through. What do you need? Tommy! Hey, buddy, if you want to join, man. I've just been sitting here waiting to see if somebody want to talk for a little while. I'm getting bullied out of Praise's channel again. Oh, blah, blah, blah. All right. Yeah, I've seen some pretty hellish stuff. It's one thing seeing a fellow soldier die in front of you and heads explode and all kinds of wonderful detail, gory stuff. And that's shocking by itself. But you can prepare for that. You can't prepare for losing a child. Even if your child's sick and they're born with a disease or some sort of long-term chronic problem that that they're probably expected to die. I don't think you can prepare for that. Yeah. Well, and you were hinting on that yourself, Tommy. People calling you evil or something crazy. It's what the heck? We can be wrong. We can disagree with each other and not be evil. I don't know if you heard me earlier. We all go from faith to faith. We all stumble thinking that we're right about some doctrine or whatever. But the only thing that matters, the only thing that makes us Christian or not, is whether we're quote unquote bananas for Jesus. That's it. If you love the Lord, he will correct you, whether through other people or himself. Jesus stood right in front of poor Paul, right in the road. Paul's like, excuse me? Who are you? Why are you glowing? Can you imagine that? Jesus just standing right in front of you? You go, hello. Oh, the Lord is awesome. And Paul still doubted. He's like, what? Jesus said, because you don't believe, then you're going to get, I'm going to put some fish scales on your eyes. Go talk to this poor guy. And the poor guy's like, Jesus told me that some Christian mass murderer is going to come talk to me. Is that you? Can you imagine? Lord's coming to, hey, this you know that famous Christian murderer guy going around all the towns wanting to murder all you guys? He's going to come see you. I'm like, excuse me? That's how it works. That's it, Tommy. We should love each other, especially when we're wrong. When we think each other are wrong, that's when we should love each other even more. That's how God is. And that's the real tall tale, Tommy. That's the thing. That's the difference. That's what makes, for lack of a better word, honest Christians. How well you love somebody, especially your enemy, quote unquote. That's why I get upset, especially at other Christians, because they don't know how to be like Christ. Do not bully your brother or sister. That reminds me how, siblings, they'll fight, they'll pick on each other. But if somebody else starts to fight your brother, and then they're done. You don't tolerate that. And that's the instinct that I fight. I see these wannabe Christians try to attack my siblings. And it's like, no. Can't do that. And I say that intrepidly because, again, they're not trying to just be a sibling, sibling rivalry. It's all these YouTube and Facebook debates, these social media crap. They're going beyond civilized sibling rivalry. It's not the same. They're doing it as an enemy. I was told tonight that if I don't join their chat, defend what I'm trying to say, which I didn't want to. They're bullying, they're trapping, they're trying to bait me in there. That I'm a homosexual. A Christian told me I'm a homosexual if I don't let them bait me into their stupid conversation. That's not civil rivalry. If he thought it was, he needs to check himself. But I don't know. I'd rather envy of fearlessness and get one harassed. Is that what it is, Tommy? I agree. See, that's why I appreciate you, Tommy. I don't know that you claim to be a Calvinist, so I don't know what we necessarily agree or disagree on, and I don't care. You're a kind, wonderful Christian man. You try to encourage, and we can agree, we can disagree, we can be civilized. We have never been uncivilized together. So if we fight about anything, people like you and I, if we were to fight on something, it would be sibling rivalry. We would have fun. I don't know. I don't know why that can't happen with all Christians like it's supposed to be. Beckel was being all rude about how he'll go out and have a beer with Bob, but not with Joel. What the heck is wrong with that guy? I don't know. And yeah, I get a little butthurt. Amen, sir. That's exactly it. So I love Keith Green. His primary doctrine was that to be a Christian means you have to be bananas for Jesus. Bananas. To love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. That is it. To love everybody else, your neighbor and your enemies, as much as you love yourself. I think that's how I came to kind of enjoy my military service, for example, especially overseas. You got all these wonderful terrorists, and atheists and people wanting to shoot at you and try to murder you, and all these wonderful innocent people, perfect strangers. You're going to these people's homes and cities, and you don't know they got cool cultures and stuff that nothing like what I grew up with, of course, but it's fun. You get to learn, you get to see new things, taste new foods, and then you got these guys out there that want to kill everybody because they want to control you. Because they want to force their doctrine on you. And if you don't believe their doctrine, then you die, kind of thing, right? What made it still enjoyable was not just the fun, the camaraderie, the ability to unite with a single heart, single mind with total strangers that didn't necessarily agree about God or not. But when we stopped the bad guys, we could try to talk with them too. If they lived, I like to say, I love my enemies by giving them my own food and water and medical care if they live. And you try to reason with them. You interrogate them a little bit, negotiate a little bit. If the ones that are willing to talk, you talk with them. Why did you do this? What's wrong with you? Don't you know the Quran says this? Don't you know that this says that? I was a missionary with a gun. That's how most of my closest friends, my original church, as I call them, these guys I grew up with, they were all missionaries. They were all, most of them were all, they all were civilian missionaries. I was the only military missionary, I guess, but that's how we kind of joke about it. I was a missionary with a gun, with a weapon. Excuse me. Yeah. Well, I don't mean to scare people. I just want people to be cool and chill. My wife, Mrs. Joel, she's the psych nerd, the psychology expert. She denies she is, even though she is. It's very cute. She uses the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, all these different personality type testing things, and she goes on all the details of it, all the science of it. Lots of science to it. So there's the ninth type, Enneagram. The crown of the Enneagram, they call it, is the 9 type, the peacemaker, right? So I'm a peacemaker, apparently. And Jesus as well is a peacemaker. He's a 9 type, based on all these models and stuff. And but there's what's called a wing type. So whatever type you are, there's a wing to it. So 9s can be either a 9-wing 1, which is like a rules maker type person, versus a 9-wing 8. And the 8 is a challenger, right? So I'm a 9-wing 8. So basically, the way I think I've tried to summarize, and she summarizes it far better. I mean, that's her forte. She's brilliant. That's her science. But my summary of it is that so there's peacemakers that make peace or else that force you to make peace, and then there's the 9-wing 1s that sue for peace, that try to peacefully make people agree, and if they won't try to force peace on people, they still demand peace and strive for peace. They sue for peace, but they're 9-wing 8s. We have that challenger peacemaker, so to say. So we will, if you don't want to willfully be peaceful, we'll try to make you. So, I don't know. So that's me. Blah. Soldier scientist. Got lots of stories there, Tommy. Lots of stuff I'd love to share. Yes, sir. Right. That's why I get upset. I try my best not to fall to their level, but there are, I guess, limitations on what you can do in chat. So, and of course, chat removes inflection. I will be right back. I'm going to take a brief 2-minute timeout. I shall return, gentlemen and ladies. All right. No shame in being tenderhearted. Tommy, I think that's part of the other sign or symptom of, or consequence maybe, of being a Christian is that the very definition of Christian is to be Christ-like. So, and they say that the people you surround yourself with, will influence you, of course, and you'll start to mold yourself. You'll start to be like them, the people that you choose to be around. And that's a psychological thing as well as epigenetics, by the way. Epigenetics shows that the people that we hang out with actually change our own genetic expression. That's a whole other topic, scientific topic. But the more that we hang around with Christ, the more we get to know him, the more we start to emulate him, especially when we genuinely believe he's the Lord of our life. So yeah, we'll become tenderhearted because God is tenderhearted. God is vengeful. God is just. We'll want to do the same thing. We'll become like God. And we try to do our best to, let the Lord handle things because vengeance is his, he says. But still, we will have that nature. We will have his mind. We will have his nature. Being Christ-like means being Christian means being like Christ, having Christ's nature. That's the whole point. And I think a lot of Christians forget that. I appreciate that, Steve, Tommy. Am I a rascal as well, though? Am I just a good guy rascal, maybe? I don't know. It's funny, that reminded me of a Star Wars line. Princess Leia's telling Han Solo, I think they were in the Millennium Falcon. No. Was it the Cloud City? I forget where. Something about how she's a something scruffy looking nerf herder. He's like, who's scruffy looking? He didn't argue that he's a nerf herder. Oh, sir. I love your terminology, Tommy Rascal. Very, very cool. Yeah, man. You got any questions about anything, man? I want to answer questions. I don't like blabbering. Anything to do with science, anything to do with engineering, anything to do with stuff overseas, anything to do with scripture. We can talk about scripture if you like. I mean, I know you like to be an encouragement as well. I mean, anything we want to talk about. Lord just reminded me that's exactly how he wants us to be with him. He wants to just hang out. God's like, talk about something, ask me stuff. That's how Jesus is. I was talking about that earlier. I don't know if you missed it or not. That God begs us to ask him things. Ask, and you will know. Seek, and you will find. Got this favorite verse of mine. Jeremiah 33:3. Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. I love that. That is science. Ask God. I did have an interesting experience on Facebook this week, Tommy. Usually I'm the one that gets, banned or whatever for calling out all the anti-scientists and all the haters and stuff. But it was Facebook actually returned the favor. So not only did I not get banned for pointing out people are racists and whatnot, but some guy was arguing with an evolutionist on this one public channel, and he was talking about how I'm just an animal, right? Evolutionists say that humans are just mammals. We're just mammalia, part of the mammalia family kingdom, whatever. You're just an animal, Joel. And Facebook banned him. Click. I was like, wow. And one of his friends was, oh, maybe he just hurt Joel's feelings. I'm like, no, you can't hurt my feelings. I didn't report him. It was just kind of nice, I guess, for a change. I haven't been banned in a while, actually. It's kind of weird. It's like Facebook, has been not so bad as usual, I guess. In fact, I did get banned. It was a couple of weeks ago. I got a 30-day ban for quoting Hitler about evolution. And I did the little rebuttal thing, and it didn't do anything. So then I sent some message to some help support thing, whatever, and, deep in the bowels of Facebook support somewhere, letting them know that Facebook has now officially supported white supremacy because they banned me for trying to fight against evolutionist white supremacy, quoting Darwin and Hitler's racist, primary source references. And so that's Facebook officially supporting racism. And I don't know if they got my message or not, but not only did they give me the, oh, sorry, we got this wrong thing, and reactivated my comment. But in the past, every time they did that, they would say they got something wrong about banning me for something. They still didn't unban me. They didn't lift my restriction. I was still, I was still restricted for however many days, right? But that time they lifted my restriction. So I don't know if they're just, being cool finally or something. Because I had half the mind to start a lawsuit. And I know there's class action lawsuits all over the place. That's the whole fight of whether or not Facebook and Google and Twitter are a platform versus a what do they call a publisher debate. Take no judgment unto yourself. Explain that one if you'd like. Yes, it's a social media platform designed to silence you if you say something wrong, I guess. No, there's a proverb that says to seek God's will in the counsel of the multitude. So there is some benefit to listening to others. But just like, so that's the other thing that people get wrong often. People will quote Romans, will quote Paul, to obey the government. See, the Bible says to always obey the government. Well, Yes. But then Stephen also made it clear that we obey God over the government. If the government wants to say something wrong and someone wants to give us a wrong judgment, then you're right. Don't take that judgment. Iron sharpens iron. You reminded me, Tommy. A proverb. Maybe that's my problem, huh? Some of us are too sharp. Some of us our metal has been tested. We've been broken and folded over too much, so now our steel is hard. Don't let the what's that go? Don't let the foot say or don't let the hand tell the foot that we don't need you. Every part of the body of Christ is needed. Some are soft and tender. Some are designed to fight, defend, protect, stand against. Not that those who are tenderhearted don't stand. It's just they fight differently, which is good. Not every squad member can be a machine gunner. Not every squad member can carry a 203. Not every air cav unit can have Apaches. We need to mix it up. I've been reminiscing a lot about that recently too, Tommy, especially on my Facebook wall. I've been sharing some military YouTube stuff, some videos. There's a lot of really good, terrible stuff going on around the world that just doesn't get talked often enough about. We get very complacent, very comfortable, which is good. Those of us that serve, we try to often say that if the protected feel comfortable and they feel safe, then that means we're doing our job. But at the same time, there's often a false sense of safety. So it's a balance, I guess. Staying educated, staying prepared, while trying to enjoy the peace. East Germans. Yeah. One of my permanent duty stations was in Germany in the USCOM theater. And about once a month, at least, I was near Frankfurt in Hanau. It's a little airfield. This Air Force. It was a Army airfield. Fliegerhöchstkasernen. And we deploy out to Grafenwehr and all the different places, specifically to train with what we called our German sister units. We would teach the Germans how to fight the Russians. This is in the late 90s, early 2000s. Still going on today. USCOM is the footprint has diminished some in Europe command and whatnot, but it's still there. We're still training other nations. We're still training the Germans how to protect themselves against Russians today, right now. Even though Russia is pretty much gone. No, I know. I hear you. And that's just it, man. Private contractors, you guys are just as, you guys are there in the dirt with us. You just get paid 4 times as much. So we understand. Oh, you're the angels. I was in Bosnia, man. We're setting up our GP mediums literally in the mud. It's just raining nonstop and soggy. You can put up a cot, and take your boots off in the mud. Sucks. No showers. And here comes Kellogg Brown. Everybody's saying, "Oh, Dick Cheney, he's evil, trying to profiteer off." I'm like, thank God. KBR comes in there. They're just freaking 2x4s, throws it down in our tents for us. We're like, thank you. Please come profit some more off this war. Whatever nonsense people falsely accuse others of. They were doing us a favor. Thank you. The gut trucks or whatever you call it, the Meals on Wheels, the KBR, they'd come down there, man. Those were freaking godsend. You can only live off him. I mean, yeah, I mean, you probably technically live off MREs longer than 2 weeks, but you don't want to. Trust me, I've been there. You know, you want some grease, you need some soda. Ugh, luxuries, you know, and that's what civilian contractors do. You guys are our angels. Love it. One of my NCOs in Korea, we had the military side for the Apache depot level repair. Um, we were the theater wide support element for all the Apache squadrons in the whole area on this little mountain next to the DMZ, and we had a civilian contractor side, the Raytheon Martin Marietta guys, right across the street. You know, and we're in the military van. You know, we had the big green, you know, expandable 18-wheeler trailer. You know, where our computers sat. You know, so we had to do all our test stuff ready to roll. You know, ready to be deployed 24/7. They get a building. They get a bathroom. You know, they get tables and they get microwave ovens. You know, doing the same exact thing we would do. You know, we would often we give them our offload stuff that we just, you know, we wanted it. If we were rushing, you know, trying to get something done for a group, we would give them some of our work. Their purpose was that if there was something that we couldn't figure out quickly, because we did everything on those Apaches, every electronic component on an 864 Alpha or Delta model, I know everything about that Apache. The only thing I didn't know about an Apache is the mechanics, which I can figure that out easy. I'm a mechanic as well. I know how turbine engines work. I know how rotary engines work. So I can figure the mechanics out within probably a few hours, especially if I had the manuals to it. Without the manuals, I can figure it out. But all the electronics, I still remember it today, Tommy. It's great. I still remember the Whiskey 10 cable. I still remember all of the cooler doer, how that worked, and the pilot night vision sensor, all the preamps and the post amps, all the video card amp drivers. I still know the TADs, the target acquisition device sensor, the fire control computer, all that stuff, the rounds counter, how the IHADs, the heads down displays, the controls. I used to test all the little hand controls and stuff for the gunner and the pilot, all the radios, everything in that helicopter. I knew how all the missile rails. So the rail system, they had this big long, like 3-foot long circuit board for each of the 4 rails, and then they had the 5th one that basically was the controller for the other 4 rail control circuit board. So that little triangle looking piece is just packed full of electronics. I fixed those things down to the component, down to the resistor. I'm a nerd. Anyway, so the things that we didn't either have time for or want to fix, we'd give our civilian contractors. You know, they'd pick up our slack. Or if we had, you know, some super deep technical question, you know, if we had to research and develop something, that's what we'd call them up. Hey, can you help us figure out why this doesn't work? And so instead of having to wait for the guys back in the States and Arizona, we'd ask our civilian guys across the street. Anyway, long story short, oh, darn it. He had to sleep. No, you're welcome, Tommy. Thank you for stopping by. If you're still listening, buddy, you are welcome anytime. I really appreciate your character, Mr. Tommy. Saint Tommy. Love it. So one of my NCOs, for everybody else that wants to bother listening to my yes, sir. Because I got nothing else to talk about. All my old war stories. Sergeant Hespeth. So he's an E5, and they were trying to get him to re-enlist as an E6, but he was tired of it. His family was in Korea and stuff, so he's thinking about retiring as an E5. And you too, Tommy. Thank you again, buddy. Hope you have a blessed night. Hope the Lord gives you some amazing dreams tonight. Dreams of heaven. There's something else I could talk about. I've had dreams of heaven. Oh Lord. Anyway, so he we had a shortage of NCOs, senior staff for my MOS. So they were bribing him. They were trying to. They were kept ratcheting up the enlistment bonus and the NCO bonus for him. tens of thousands of dollars to get him to re-enlist. And he's like, nope. Sorry. He was tempted, he said, but so he disappears, right? He ETSs, and we don't see him for like 3 or 4 months, right? And we just assumed he went home. He's again his family was there. He married a Korean lady. He'd been there as an 11 Charlie, so he'd been there for years already. Really loved it. And Korea is awesome. South Korea, gentlemen, ladies, South Korea is probably the second best place on earth, especially for nerds like me. The electronics, like they call it electronics market. It's this 4 square mile section of downtown Seoul, man. It is to die for. It's just everything you could ever imagine. Every kind of component, every kind of computer thing, robots, everything, more than half off compared to anywhere else in the world. It's awesome. Nerd paradise. Anyways, so he comes back as a civilian, working with the Lockheed Martin Marietta guys. We're like, what's going on? And welcome back, kind of thing. So he went back to California to train with, and I forget which contract group he was with exactly. I think it was Raytheon. And then came back to Korea to the same exact unit, same exact job, basically, but being able to do work casually for 4 times the pay. So, without having to wear a uniform. So I don't know. Makes you wonder. Of course, he took all the guys out to get your drinks and stuff, because that's all you do when you're in the middle of nowhere on top of a frozen mountain. Nothing to do. Is people get drunk. So we had the highest alcoholic consumption rate per capita in the entire Southeast Pacific Theater, which I guess is something to brag about. Little Air Force PX built a brand new walk-through giant refrigerator section of the PX there on post, just so people get their booze. I didn't. I didn't drink. My vice was the internet. I'd get online, chat with my wife, chat politics. That's probably why I still chat on YouTube. This is what I've been doing for decades. It's horrible. I have no life. Even 5 million miles from home, sit on top of a mountain, trying to defend precious human beings against atheism, against socialism. What do I do for fun? I hack into the military DNS global network so I can get on the internet. Because they did not have the internet on that mountain, but they had a DNS line, which is you're supposed to use for telephones, and it had a T1 trunk, which was really awesome back in the late 90s. Back then, back that was back when DSL and dial-up was still a thing. 56K baud modem was fast. I had a T1 line, baby. They rigged the telephone line to our little Connex there in the middle of that little pod, a concrete pad, top of that mountain. I hacked into it, wired a modem into it, figured out the signaling to it, because I'm a big geek. That was before I got into telecom too. I just realized I taught myself telecom. Sit on a mountain in Korea. I hacked a military DNS line, and it wasn't exactly regulation, but nobody cared. So anyways, it's good stuff. That was fun. I had a lot of fun. God has let me have a lot of fun in life. I got in trouble in Germany. Let's bring back some memories. Because, not a lot of trouble, just a little bit of trouble, because we were doing one of those German sister unit things like I was telling Tommy about. One of those field exercises. I don't know if it was Grafenwehr specifically. It was one of those places out in the middle of nowhere. Some little campsite in the Black Forest somewhere, Germany. And we had a mobile talk set up for admin. And I forget what I was doing there. I wasn't doing talk operations. I was doing something different, but I forget what. But I would try to, we were training the Germans, so we weren't actually, we weren't terribly busy. I'd make every effort I could to go hang at the talk, and I rigged, again, one of the computers in there to be able to communicate to the DNS line. So I'd be in there chatting away, having fun, playing a game or something like that. And one of my sergeants comes in, and he's like, I can't say I don't want to say my full name, but anyways, he comes and asks me, what are you doing? I was trying to go, I told him the truth. No, I was playing a game. How are you playing that? I got hooked up to the internet. How'd you do that? Well, I did this DNS. That's not supposed to be possible. But so yeah, he wanted to get mad at me about it until he realized he could play games on it too. So he chilled out. I didn't get to play the games as much, of course, but in retrospect, I probably could have rigged up a second computer. But yeah, not all NCOs are that cool. So, that's the Army life. Dude, I remember that guy too. I forget his name. I remember when I first got there and hang out. I think he hated me. He singled me out, like those Veckel guys, and he would pick on me for every little stupid thing. I had that Fred Flintstone thing, where even right after I shave, you still got like poof, you get that 5 o'clock shadow, permanent 5 o'clock shadow thing. And so he'd chew me out in formation, especially you didn't shave this morning. Yes, I did, Sergeant. He had me bring a razor, literally bring my razor blade to formation with me to prove that I shaved that morning. Maybe shave in formation. I guess how much of a jerk this guy was. So, and a bunch of other things. He was just a hard ass. He wasn't towards other people except me. Until he had imported was it not a Lexus, Infinity, the fancy Nissan luxury car, gold. It was a beautiful car, and the little ECM computer broke in it, and he was spending thousands of dollars. He was constantly complaining about it, taking it to all these different shops, trying to get it repaired, couldn't get it fixed. And I finally offered, even though the guy hated my guts, to look at it for him. He's like, "What do you know about it? Just because you're electronics, blah blah blah, blah, you know anything about cars?" Blah, blah. I was like, "Well, I can. If you don't want me to look at it, I won't." He's like, "Fine, but you better not make it worse," kind of thing. So I looked at it, and of course, it was a total rat's nest. It took me like 3 days to clean it up, and I fixed the stupid thing. And then he fell in love with me. I was his best friend after that. I mean, he went out of his way. I was disgusting. This guy was just night and day. I probably could have just punched him and he would have been like, "Oh yeah, I probably deserved it." It's just ridiculous. People are like that. It's if you can do something for them that they need, they will sing your praises. And I hate that. Treat everybody the same, darn it. But anyways. Hey Cheryl. If I can't sleep, I'll be back. Okay. Mrs. Joel's laying down herself right now. That's why I'm blabbering to myself, waiting for one of you wonderful people. So I need to talk. I was hoping Bob would show up. Praise says he wanted to show me something too. I told him to come check me out tonight when he's done, but I don't know. What? Excuse me. The Diet Coke did not want to stay down. It's the last Diet Coke too in the house, I think. Wait. I used to hate Diet Coke. Or dislike it, I should say. Mrs. Joel finally broke me. She likes Diet Coke. So it has become an acquired taste. Like catfish. All right. What else can I talk about that might be interesting? So the artificial intelligence avionics package on a Falcon 9 orbital class self-landing rocket delivery system costs about $1 million, which is actually cheap. Well, rocket systems about between $20 to $30 million at cost, depending on the configuration. They go between $50 to $60 million for market retail, but the avionics that makes it recyclable, reusable, is about $1 million, give or take. It sits on the top of the first stage booster between the interconnector and the second stage. And it's just a collection of boxes and a bunch of wires. It sits on this little rail, this little flat aluminum piece of thing on the top. When they got it, they got it separated out of the booster, and it's in the hangar. It's all covered up, super top secret black material and stuff, so people can't touch it and take pictures of it and stuff because it's all super top secret. But it's not that complicated. It's actually not that much different than the Saturn V avionics package. The main difference would be the Saturn V's packages, computer package, ran along the inside of the ring. It was bigger. The SpaceX one's just flat, but still just an avionics package. And the Saturn V couldn't land itself either, but it's beside the point. We're talking avionics. But yep. It's just a pre-planned deorbiting trajectory. It uses basic radios, K-band and ultra. Is it ultra or very high? I forget which frequency, but just pings off the drone, making little micro corrections here and there. It's really amazing. It's almost a miracle. It's a minor miracle that it survives, that it lands, because it's math, but the smallest little squirt from the nitrogen RCS, could make it go. It's not easy. One little jolt, and it could throw it off course and cause it to become imbalanced. And it's just literally landing a 13-story building onto a boat in the middle of the ocean. So it's amazing. Revolutionizing the private space industry. Making space great again, right? And I know how that silly thing works. I know how the programming works. I know the algorithms. I can recreate it in a simulation. The chief avionics engineer has my I keep wanting to almost say my last name. I probably shouldn't because people try to dox me here, but I had the same last name. Fun guy too. Helped him a little bit. He developed his own software on how to describe it. Basically, to plan out his cabling, all the wiring, stuff like that. So there's, billions and billions and billions of wires and hundreds of thousands of miles of cables that go through all this stuff. But even on the avionics packages, there's all these cables, and the different iterations for the design packages. Of course, we had to redesign the cabling, and so it could be very, very painstaking, especially when you got 50 plus pins per cable. And so he developed some software that would help do it automatically. And there was some proprietary software that was supposed to do it, but it sucked. And you couldn't customize it, so he customized it. I was very impressed, and he'd ask me for help on it, and make some improvements to it. But so all he had to do was take the spec of what the connector was going to do, what the outputs and the inputs were, and plug that in. And it could be almost any format, JSON or whatever, and click, and it would find out the best path, and then you could tweak it for any kind of spacing requirements or lengths or whatever you needed, and then boom, it automatically print out or save a file for the fabrication guys to build it. Technology. I miss hanging out with that guy. I need to call him up. I wonder if he's still at McGregor or not even. He might be down in Boca Chica. Boca Chica. It's a weird name. Back from the native Texian native tribes. Boca Chica. I almost went down there when they were first starting to build it. They were asking for volunteers, and my coworker, he went a couple times because he's from down there. He's from Laredo or so, I forget what, some small town down there. Not Laredo, Brownsville, somewhere down there. And he hated it. It's like he didn't want to go, but that's his old stomping ground, so he went down there a few times. Him and this other IT guy, they'd have their little war stories. There's shenanigans, but it's all built up now. It is a bona fide spaceport. A lot of work. They temporarily started off renting just a couple of rooms. There's a local, I think it's a TSTC, some college, right? Campus that's right there next to it. And they'd rent a couple of rooms out, and they'd rent a couple more rooms out, and they'd buy a part of the building. Now, like, I think they own the whole building now. So, yeah. Good stuff. And McGregor's still going, man. We still hear the rocket tests here. I'm like 20, 30 miles away from it. And it'll shake the windows. You'll feel it in the chairs and the furniture, especially when the Raptor tests go off. Because when I was still there, we still had the horizontal Raptor test that I helped build. So when it went off, it wasn't that loud because the force was mostly going laterally. I mean, it was loud nearby, but you couldn't hear it 30 miles away, in the suburbia where I'm at. But now they've retrofitted the tripod, so it's now vertical. So the Raptor engine tests are all going in the ground again, and so you feel it. you can hear it and feel it far, far away. It's fun. 3 million pounds of thrust, 300 something newtons, I think. Almost a 300 specific impulse rating. One of the most efficient rocket engines ever invented. Second most powerful. Using methalox, methane and oxygen, which is very, very difficult by itself. The Soviets tried to back like in the 50s and 60s, but they kept blowing it up. So SpaceX figured it out. I don't think we've blown up any Raptors yet. We were worried about it, especially when we were first building the test stand, because that's a catch. So you have methane, little detectors you can wear, on your shirt and stuff, on your belt, but that only detects gas. So, and we have to use liquid methane, right? Frozen methane, and it likes to hug the ground. So if there's a leak, you have to hope that enough of it evaporates to set off your detector, right? Otherwise, it'll just hug the ground, and waiting for a spark to kill you, and blow up the whole place. so yeah, so we had to design every transducer, every valve, every regulator had to be intrinsically safe. And so normally we had these ClearComm, these little belt pack radios that we use for all the telecommunications, for all the test stands between the engineers and the science guys and whatnot. And so that was part of our job. And we had a telecom guy basically for each test stand, for each silo. And I'm trying to remember the guy's name for the Raptor stand. He was a big, tall guy. He's like 6'4" or something like that. Oh, what was his name? Started with an R. I want to say Roy. And I'm sorry, Roy, if you ever hear this. I forget your name, man. It is kind of cool, but I don't know. Him and I had some little tension there too at one point. Regardless, yeah, that's what it was. He thought I was making him look bad at one point in front of the stand manager, I think, chief scientist dude. And I almost remember his name too. But and I told him I wasn't trying to make you look bad. I was just trying to do my job, because I was supposed to do all the stuff for for all the operations. Anyway, so we couldn't use the regular Clearcom radios that he had because they were not intrinsically safe. So when you key up on them, they have to run the risk of generating a little spark inside. So if there is a minute lower limit methane gas leak somewhere, and you key up on your little belt radio, it blow up, right? So we had to research, had to go find out. So we eventually the Marvin, yeah, that was the that was the test stand manager. He decided they wanted to use these Motorola Turbo handheld radios because they would, for an extra $900, they would pot them, basically make them intrinsically safe. So I was like, fine. So we put extra shielding on all the gauges and stuff like that. And because the catch was that when you key down on your radio to talk to the control booth or whatever, the radio signal will bleed into the electronics, into all the gauges and all the test equipment and stuff like that. And so, which would also be bad, especially if you're trying to calibrate things, getting ready for a test. You go key up, you throw stuff off, or worse, you might trigger a switch that could open a valve at the wrong time and do kablooey again. You're killing people, right? So we had to try to think ahead for all this stuff. Anyway, so I figured out, actually, one of the other electrical engineers, he figured out how to add this built-in attenuator that you could add between the radio and the antenna. And I kind of told him I didn't think that, it helped a little bit, but not enough. It made it so we could use a weaker signal. So I had to figure out how to reduce the wattage on the base station. So we had the base station that went to the data control center, and I put the antenna as far away from the gauge, from the test site, as we could, because even at its lowest setting, 1 watt setting, it still had like a 12-mile radius range. This thing was that powerful, that awesome. And we didn't need 12 miles. We needed about, maybe 100 feet, maybe 200 feet the most, right? And so I was trying to figure out with the Motorola guys, how do we reduce the radiation, the signal strength for this thing, so we don't, because why do you need to? Because the radio guys, they're trying to do everything they can to maximize the range, right? People like, no, I need to minimize the range. Anyway, so I got it down to, even though it's still a full watt, I got it down to within a 1 mile saturation point. That was fun. That was hard to do. And what was really fun, I figured out how to wire it into what was called the it's a multiplexer. Oh gosh, what was it called? It was a Clearcom thing. Where normally, the Clearcom radios, they're all digital, and so you could have multi-channels, and you could program your radio so that not only could you talk to like 4 different people at once, or change a channel, to talk to just different people, different, what they call party line groups, but you could configure it to talk to people across the planet, anyone that's on that network, people in Hawthorne, people in Florida, could talk to people in Texas. It's an awesome system, right? So the Motorola's couldn't do that. Motorola was just local, little super fancy, expensive handheld. And so I figured out, trial and error. It took me like a week almost, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 days of just trial and error of how to rig that Motorola base station to that Clearcom multiplexer. And I figured it out. I wrote it down. I don't think, I don't remember how I did it, but and it was annoying though, because it was a half duplex. It was only a simplex. The Motorola was only a simplex channel radio, so it couldn't do the multicasting for the duplex for the Clearcom stuff. But I still mimicked it. So you could still, when you keyed up on the Motorola, you still at least picked up one channel on the multiplexer. So you just had to pick one channel, which was fine. That's all they needed, right? One test stand. And it could communicate to the rest of the rest of the network on the whole site. So if somebody wanted to talk to a ground technician on the Raptor stand from large site, they could. You could configure it that way. Anyways, it was an awesome hack. And nobody died. Thankfully, thank God. We pray a lot at SpaceX. There's a lot of prayer. Elon prays. People try to say he's a atheist. He's not. He's not a evangelical Christian. Like people might wish that all Christians were, but he's a quiet Christian. Seen him pray over his meals, and people don't realize when he says that it's a simulation universe, which I agree with, that everything is literally information. The point that he likes people to make to realize for themselves is that every simulation program requires a programmer. So God programmed the universe, including life. Life is information. Life is universal information. It's all proof that God exists. God is intelligence. God reveals his intelligence in the information universe. Anyways. So, yeah. So we pray a lot. Having so many memories. You guys need I got 3 people here. Somebody want to join, please? I'm just waiting for somebody to want to join. I'm not here to talk with myself. I am craving conversation. I want to answer questions. I don't want to just talk. If anybody's interested in anything that I can help with, let me know. I don't know how much time I've got left tonight. I took a big long nap, so wow, it's 4:00. I'm wide awake. But, excuse me. Work has been extremely easy. They gave me a bunch of really hard back-end work when I first started. Get more intimately equated with the database faster than I thought it was possible. It's a 3-dimensional database, but very, very extremely huge project. They've been working on it for over 20 years straight now. And I'm the new guy, so the newest guy. They just hired somebody else recently overseas. I hear Mrs. Joel, the star of the show. Don't do that. Are you avoiding fame and recognition? Too bad. You're the star of my life. How are you doing? Still. I've been bouncing between complaining about bullies and God's perspective versus our own, how we confuse between people trying to fit God in their own box. Talking about SpaceX a little bit. Cool. Trying to get people interested and want to come talk about something.
Oh, it's 4 something in the morning, darling.
Well, so we're night owls out there.
That's almost morning owls.
Morning owls and people, different time zones. What's on your mind? If I may ask.
I just haven't been feeling it.
Yeah. That's one of my kind of frustrations in my life is that you got this beautiful, precious, super intelligent. You're more intelligent than I am, regardless if you believe it or not. And I wish I could read your mind. I wish I could pick your brain.
Very cute, but
nope,
I don't
serious.
feel very good, so there isn't a whole lot to pick.
Yeah, there is. People always think about something. I think that's the same with God. I think God wants us to pick his brain.
He wants us to seek him for sure. Mm-hmm. Kitty, don't you go like this?
Is she checking to make sure it's fresh water?
Well, I think she assumes that it's not all the way at the top. So.
Yeah, so she's got to shake the cup, spill water to make sure it's got some in there.
Either that, or she's like, yeah, just likes to see the water spill.
I plunked her head in the water once when she was getting really
Oh,
well because she was making a mess.
of course she is.
So I plunked her little face in there. And she looked at me like she was like, "How rude." And I was rude.
She's looking at it. So
Yeah.
She likes to see what it does.
Yeah. She doing her scientific experiment on the spilled water on the couch.
Yes.
She's lucky it's got Scotch Guard on it, right?
Exactly.
You're right. She's sniffing it. Yeah, does it taste better when you lick it off the couch, cat? Silly.
She's very cute.
Yes.
God,
there she goes again.
Stop it.
You guys they can't see this. She paws the edge of the cup so it shakes. It's in a little cup holder on our little love seat here. And so she shakes it to get it to splash.
Oh, just a little.
Yep. Very calibrated, yep.
No, she stuck my fingers and hold the cup. Stop
Yep.
it.
Like she's experimenting.
Oh, just drink it, beauty.
She a year old yet? How old is this kitten?
No, she's about 6-7 months.
Yeah. The curiosity of the cat. I regret to have to inform you that I think I'm drinking your last Diet Coke can.
Rude.
It's not my fault you drink all your Coke so fast.
I'm not the only one drinking it.
That's right.
You and Matt both get it.
I had like 2.
Yeah, okay.
It's my second one.
I doubt it. I'm sure you had more than that.
Not from that package, no.
No. Baby. Oh, yeah. She's going in for Dad.
Adorable cat. This cat is so super. This is the most affectionate cat I've ever known. Ever. I've known a lot of cats. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. You are almost disgustingly sweet. This kitten, she will literally like crawl up your side of your chest and try to get on your shoulder, and she will claw into your shoulder a little bit to hug you. And she'll rub her face against us, or while she's trying to hug us and stuff.
She's a little sweetie.
Almost every morning, I get out of the bedroom. She's right there trying to trip me up. It's like, pick me up.
Yeah, she's climbed up Matthew. I've watched.
Yeah, I see too.
Just so he'll
straight off the ground. She just crawls right over just to get in, just getting hold of him. Yeah, now she's all cozy and parked right there on the edge of my couch with me. All warm and snuggly. Stickers was nice. Stickers would code with me.
Stickers just lay on his back and sprawled out across your lap.
Yep. Well,
paws.
He was being like me. I was all sprawled out, listening to my. So I'd sit there because we have these recliner love seats, right? And so I'd be sitting there all stretched out. I got them. We got wireless mice and keyboards, so I'd be just sitting in the lap of luxury doing my work, And this cat, and he got big. He started small, and he has a giant cat literally just laying on his back in my lap, stretched out just like I was.
I think there was his little paws are above his head.
Yep.
Really cute.
He was my little coder buddy, my inspiration. We got pictures too. I miss him. He's a cool cat. Ha! Hallelujah. I was sharing my summary of the 9-wing 8, the peacemaker or else versus the 9-wing 1 that tries to sue for peace.
They both sue for peace.
Right.
Both of them do.
Was that the correct way of expressing it, though? The 9-wing 8 will try to force peace versus the 9-wing 1 try to negotiate? Or try to be more soft about it, I guess. I don't know. How do you describe it?
9-wing ones, of course, are more apt to be argumentative than 9-wing 1. 9-wing ones will tend to grit their teeth and bear it. They don't try to, although they are seething. That's the best word to describe 9-wing 1 when they're angry is seething. but 918 specifically, they'll have their blowouts, and then later on, will try to borrow your expressions too for peace.
So is that why I get angry?
Oh, I don't know about it. The
When people
reasons
try to
why
bully me?
vary, of course, but that's generally, I mean, what happens when we get stupid angry.
Tommy was being very gracious earlier about it when I was talking about it.
Nice.
Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, he said it's good not to suffer the childish bullying.
Yeah, the minute that you were told that you're homosexual if you don't get on Voice, come on, just leave. Just leave. I mean, it's not worth it.
Envy of fearlessness can get one harassed. He was thinking that some of those guys are, I don't know if scared is the right word, but they don't. He says they may find you frightening in ways because you are fearless in ways they aren't. It was a rather impressive compliment if that's the case.
I don't know if it is. It just seems as though there's a lot of ego, arrogance, and childishness, and that's why I don't talk, because I have no interest in any of that nonsense.
That's what makes me so frustrated is that people like you are the ones that need to talk. You're the expert. You're the sweet, kind intellectuals that we all need to hear more from, and so you're being bullied not to share because of the bullies bullying other people.
Well, I just don't have any desire to be around people like that.
That's what I'm saying. So why do people tolerate these bullies that silence you, even though you don't even, and that's a lot of these other people like Cheryl and these other people, Guru lady, she mentioned it too. Even Jesse, was talking about that, how she wants to be, these people want to join these Christian channels to fellowship, and they feel bullied, so they just don't. They just stay off the channel like you do. That's wrong to me. That's evil to me. Christians should be welcoming and should be encouraging everybody to share, especially fellow Christians. You know? Looking at cat pictures. What is heterochromia? Extra toes. Interesting. As if cats don't have enough claws already, right?
She's a pretty one.
Mm-hmm. So what's the best way to summarize that again? 918 versus 981. Was that the best one you had?
As far as the temper goes, yeah.
Trying to come up with like a single sentence comparison, maybe. Squeak. Did you have any fondest memories of SpaceX? Recollection?
Yeah, going aboard and touring was fun.
Was there a better or more favorite test stand area? Like maybe the tripod? Tower of Terror. What'd you call the elevator again? The Alfred Hitchcock reference?
Mm-hmm.
That was the Tower of Terror?
So, yeah.
No. All right, if you don't want to talk, I understand. Guess I can shut the channel down. No one else interested right now either. I was hoping Bob would come share without all the. I told him without all the distraction. And he tried to say, "What? I don't know if you were here when we were talking a little bit, that to go ahead and try to do it there and praise his channel." And I was like, "Well, no, because we're going to get distracted again." And he was trying to get me to go ahead and do it anyways, and then we got distracted. And I offered praise to try to come tonight. He wanted to show me something. He said that has caused him to change his mind on the Trinity. Apparently, that even though Jesus is God, he's not the Father, I guess. So I tried to. I made the mistake of trying to reason out that means that God is multiple people. It's a split personality disorder or something. But, mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about it or leave you alone?
No, I just don't feel really well.
No. Well, let me know what I can do to help you feel better, if anything.
This time.
I'll run to the gas station, get some drinks if you need sooner. I wonder if the microphone just picked up my guts making that noise.
Awesome.
It was loud. Tried to offer Matt to join on the channel too. Talk.
Did you just recently leave the other channel or something?
Oh no, it's
several times.
2 hours. What several times?
Oh, I woke up several times hollering, carrying on.
No, that's 2 hours ago. See. I gotta find something to do for work tomorrow again. I'll probably just grab a ticket. Just pick up a new sprint story and start working on it without having to ask anybody. You know? What's Beneath gonna say, you know? Oh, you shouldn't do that. Like, okay, well, here. Give it to somebody else then. Ay, ay, ay. Frita bedito. You know what's fascinating is the human brain, human mind being able to remember certain things but not remember other things. You know? I don't have a good memory of certain things. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, there's a challenge. What do you not remember? What do you know that you don't know? What have I forgotten recently, Kelly? You remember?
No, I'm not really talking.
I understand. I can tell. I'm so sorry. I was talking earlier though about how I'm able to still remember all these intimate details of an Apache attack helicopter, all the different subcomponents. I still remember how the bore sight spin up tests work. I still remember how the target acquisition software works. I still remember how to calibrate a pinvis. I still remember how to troubleshoot the test computer, repair it. I have all these memories of technical junk. That'll be extremely useful if we ever go to war again or have a civil war. I'll be the first guy in line over at the Air National Guard station with the Apaches. The Whiskey 10 cable, $10,000 cable. I told you about that, right? Yeah, I did. Told somebody. It's kind of a complicated. It's why it's so expensive, but it's just a thin little, like 22, 24 gauge wire with probably 20 or 30 or so connectors on it. That all of the different subcomponent sections in the PINVIS, all the video card pre and post amps and all the cryogenics and stuff in it for all the infrared stuff. Instead of a single backplane motherboard, it's just cables, just these little connectors all tied into it. And they all funnel into one big giant pigtail that comes out the bottom of the PINVIS. It's all wrapped in fancy tinfoil to prevent an EMP pulse from damaging it, all kinds of silly stuff. But no, was it $40,000? Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, yeah, no, it was a $40,000 cable. I remember now. We would joke because we said we could probably build it for a couple $100 probably from parts from Radio Shack, but yeah, to buy one from supply, it was $40,000 from the supply system. It's ridiculous. Because that's how the contractors get their money back. They lose money on the actual, selling the platform, the helicopter. They lose money on those helicopters, but they make their money back on the parts. This was one time I remember walking back from the supply hangar. I had 4 Whiskey 10 cables. They come in these little boxes, little cardboard boxes. I had 4 of them in my arms. And, it's about maybe a 5-10 minute walk or so across the airfield. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got $160,000 taxpayer money in my arms here. Terrible. Just terrible. Yep. The motherboard for the fire control computer had a 486 chip on it, which was fancy back in the 90s. That one board itself cost $10,000. And it was not complicated. It was a very simple board. Some driver amps for the chip, some IO busing for the, or IO buffers for the bus. It was not complicated. We joke also it probably costs like maybe $100 to build one of those from scratch, including with the 46 chip. So simple it was. Well, alrighty. There's a couple people left, so if you are there listening, you want to join, by all means. Otherwise, I'm going to probably go ahead and sign off. Hang out with Mrs. Joel a little while, see if I can help her feel better somehow. She's all quiet. Precious, precious little woman. Cute little ponytail. She's like, shut up, get it. Little kitten. Keep my legs all warm. All curled up. God is good. Of all the heck I've been through life, here I am now. With every creature comfort I could think of. The only thing, I'm so spoiled, stinking rotten. The only thing I could ask for right now is to have help cleaning up that garage so I can work on cars. That's only because we got 5 billion boxes in there right now. We don't really have any place to put them. So That's how spoiled I am. That's how good God is. My biggest complaint is my garage being full of boxes. I got to figure out if I'm going to mow my own lawn versus paying somebody. Put that business card somewhere. Okay. If I don't get a quick nap, I guess I could just start working early. We currently don't have any projects going on right now. The 2-story projects that I did have are pending testing right now. QA guys are looking at it. Stuff I was working on that was not assigned to the last sprint that are now assigned to this sprint. So my 2 tickets are already done for this sprint. So. Too easy. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for listening, and hope others that might listen to this later enjoy a little bit. But again, I would really prefer people want to shoot me questions and want to, again, just have a nice, small, quiet, civilized fellowship time on social media. So we shall see how it goes next time. You guys have a blessed night or day, whatever time it is for you. You guys take care. Bye-bye.